Hey, how's it going everyone? This is the Anime Man. So one of the biggest questions I get asked from a lot of you guys in most of my Japanese 101 videos and just in general is concerning this one thing in Japanese that gets really confusing and annoying, especially for people who are trying to learn Japanese, but even for native Japanese speakers like myself. And that revolves around kanji. Now, if you guys don't know, Japanese writing system has 3 different types of characters. Hiragana, which is the most simplest, katakana, which is used for, English words or words from other countries that have been implemented into the Japanese language, and then there is the biggest and most difficult form, kanji, which is also the most commonly used Japanese form of writing. But the one problem with kanji is that it is very difficult to learn and very difficult to kind of grasp, especially if you are trying to learn to read and write Japanese. So today, Joey-sensei is going to try and answer or try and explain to you guys how to read kanji. Before I move on with this lesson, I gotta just give like a quick warning to you guys. There are maybe a few things that you won't understand in kanji unless you get down hiragana and katakana first. So if you are like just starting off learning Japanese, then, or especially reading and writing Japanese, I suggest you guys slam in hiragana and katakana first into your brain, because otherwise kanji is gonna get really fucking difficult. So the rest of you who have already mastered hiragana and katakana, then keep listening. I will try and explain it as simple as I can. So when we look at a kanji character, say for example, this one. Alright, you've probably seen it before. This is the kanji character for mountain. Now normally you would read this as yama. Like you can just hear straight away like yama equals mountain. So if someone says that's a yama, then you'd be like, oh, that's a mountain. And if you just read this kanji by itself, then you'd say it's yama. But say for example, if I were to grab the word mountain or yama and put it into the name of a mountain, say Mount Fuji. If you were to write Mount Fuji in Japanese and in kanji rather, it would look like this. Now the first 2 characters is read as Fuji, which is the name of Mount Fuji obviously. But you see at the end there, the 3rd character has the same character, Yama mountain, right? Because it's Mount Fuji. Now most people think that when you see this, you read that as, oh okay, so the first 2 characters are Fuji and the last character is Yama, which is mountain, so you'd read it as Fujiyama, right? Right? Actually, no. You would actually read this as Fuji-san. But wait Joey, you just said that this character is read as Yama. Why did you say sun? Why is it sun? Isn't it Yama? Like, is there, like, what's going on here? Well, I'm glad you asked. Now I am actually going to go through what makes reading kanji really difficult. Now, you guys need to know that there are actually 2 ways of reading kanji. Kunyomi and onyomi. Depending on the kunyomi and the onyomi, the way that you are going to say or the way that you read a specific character is going to change drastically. Now, kunyomi is the way that you read a kanji that if you were to say what it is, then you'd be able to understand the definition of the word just from saying the word. So to use an example using the kanji that we used in the intro, which is mountain, the kunyomi for this character would be yama, because if you were to say to a Japanese person, yama, they would understand straight away that, oh, yama is like when the earth is like put up like on a hill and it becomes like this naturally created hill, as in a mountain. Now, onyomi is the opposite. Onyomi is the way that you read a character that doesn't quite give the definition of the character or can be misinterpreted in other ways if you just heard them saying the character. So the onyomi for yama, or this mountain character, would be sun, as in Fuji-san. Now if I just looked at this mountain character and read it as onyomi and I said to a Japanese person, sun, they think that, oh, okay, sun can mean mountain, but it can also mean 3, or it can also mean addition, or it can also mean acid. There are so many kanji that can use sun, but the characters are different and the definition is different because these are onyomi. Now, why is this difficult and why is it important? Well, I'm glad you asked. It is difficult, of course, because you have this one character that can be read in 2 different ways depending on the context and depending on the kanji that follows it or, leads onto it. But it is also important because that's what makes up the vocabulary of the Japanese language. If everything in the Japanese language were just read as kunyomi, as in like the way that you would read the character that would get the definition to another person just by listening to it, then the Japanese language will be really clumped and not so fluid. That's what onyomi is there for. Onyomi is there to make these characters and this combination of characters much easier to flow in a sentence. Now, if you guys are confused at this point, then try and keep up. On top of this, kanji gets really difficult when we look at kanji that can be pronounced or can be read in special ways that do not follow any rules. For example, the Japanese word for glasses is megane. You've probably heard it before, like megane characters and whatnot from anime, right? If you guys watch anime, then you'll understand, and you've most likely heard of this word, right? Now, if we were to write megane in kanji, it looks like this. Now, try not to get too overwhelmed by the number of strokes and everything, because it gets confusing from here. Now, what's difficult about this phrase megane is that the word megane using these characters is a special way of pronouncing, or the special way of reading it. Because normally, if we were to use onyomi, in which case we would, because it is a combination of characters, the first character would be gang. The second character would be kyo. So normally, if you looked at this combination of characters, you'd read it as gankyo, which in actual fact you can, because gankyo is the very old Japanese word for glasses. But as much as you can read it as gankyo, the special way of reading it is megane. Now, if you guys are tapping in the comments right now saying, Joey, why is it pronounced megane, or why is it read as megane? I don't know. That's just how it is. There is no rules concerning these special ways of reading kanji. It just is. And that's why some Japanese people that were raised in Japan, born in Japan, had an education in Japan, learnt kanji in Japan, and just spent their life around these kanji all their lives, there are some people who can't read specific words or can't read specific kanji. Because not only are there literally like thousands and thousands of characters of kanji, but the ways that you read them and the ways that you write them are really difficult to grasp and understand unless you have a very high knowledge base concerning how you read kanji, and if you read it as kunyomi or onyomi, or a special way of reading it, or multiples of the three that I just mentioned. So that was pretty much the glossing over how to read kanji. Now, let me just give you a few tips if you guys are learning to read kanji. The first thing I would do is to grab each character and learn each of the characters onyomi and kunyomi. Now, if the character is by itself, 99% of the time you would read it as the kunyomi. If the kanji is in a combination of kanji characters, as in a phrase, 99% of the time you would read it as onyomi. So if you've grasped each of the characters onyomi and kunyomi, then you will most likely be able to read a majority of phrases in Japanese, unless of course it is a special way of reading it, such as megane, in which case you just have to learn that shit. You just have to rote learn it. And that is one reason out of over 9,000 reasons why Japanese is really difficult and takes a very, very long time to learn and understand and use practically. I've made 3 more Japanese 101 videos prior to this one, which I've left all the links in the description below so you guys can check it out and, you know, refresh your memory and yeah, have fun learning Japanese. You know, it's not going to be, you're not going to learn it like that. So take your time with it, have fun with it, and, you know, enjoy all the nooks and crannies that make Japanese such a complex and just one of the most difficult, especially reading and writing languages to learn. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. As always, like, favorite, enjoy, subscribe for more banner. See you guys next video, whatever I make. Keep watching anime. Johnny!